This is clearly becoming Dylan Raiola's football team. And look, the last couple of years during the spring, you really couldn't say that. We tried to force feed quarterbacks to make it their football team before it really was their football team. I think we tried to do that with Jeff Sims when he first got here.
Well, they
brought him to Big Ten Media Days.
Yeah.
I think with Casey Thompson, taking everybody out to eat and doing all this stuff, like these guys had good intentions, but you never got the impression it was always their football team. Like it was kind of manufactured to be their football team. Where a year ago,
Casey's more than Sims, though, right?
Casey, man, like
he kind of was the guy, right? He kind of presented himself that way.
Yeah, like
really well, by the way.
He came in and immediately took everybody out to eat.
He was good that way. These guys, they come here, they're out so fast, you don't talk about them much. He was one of the more intriguing players I've ever covered. He was incredibly intelligent. I mean, he could really woo you, I think he did a lot of that.
Yeah, he and he had some good numbers. He did some good things.
He's pretty good.
Took some hits.
Yeah.
But anyway, Dylan Raiola a year ago, he at least recognized the spot that he had to earn the job. He wasn't trying to make it his team yet because it wasn't his job. But now that he's played a whole year, you're really seeing him take ownership and leadership of this locker room, really, with just how he presents himself. And I thought in Isaiah Hunter's comments yesterday really took me back, just hearing how impactful Dylan Raiola has already been on Isaiah Hunter to the point where he's going to be in my wedding someday, he said.
He said, it was funny. All the question was, I asked Hunter, how would you describe Dylan to people who have never seen him or don't know him? And part of what he said was, I would say I'd invite him to my wedding and he would be the first dude I'd invite to my wedding. He will be there and show up. And if I was to invite him to my wedding, he'd probably be the only one to show up. I didn't know what he meant by that, actually. But he said he's a great dude. Dylan's like that. I know what he was getting at. I remember meeting Dylan for the first time. I was on the field in Norman, and Dominic was there. And he said, hey, I want you to meet my son. And immediately you just know the vibe is good. He looks you in the eye, calls you sir. He's very down to earth. He'll ask you questions. And that's Dylan. Dylan's just like that. I don't think people understand it. That's why I was glad that Hunter said that. That's why I was glad he did.
The thing about Dylan too is when he goes out in public, it's a big production now. I mean, there's a lot of people that come around him and he always makes time to visit with people.
He's pleasant.
Takes pictures, signs things like Husker basketball games. Like he can't really watch the game a lot of times because there's just lines of people that want to take a picture with him or post an autograph or do whatever they want to do. And he handles that. Sue was that way as far as the attention, but Sue wasn't as approachable.
No,
Sue was about as like unapproachable.
Right. No, it wasn't the same. Dylan's really pleasant. I think of Crouch. Crouch was really pleasant. Crouch was so easy to deal with. At the Journal-Star, when he won his Heisman and the lead up to the Heisman, we asked him to do the craziest stuff. One time we asked him to get in a bin at the mail shop, get in a bin, and we put 100,000 letters in, and he had to stick his head through it. And we used it as a photo. All the letters he gets. It was a great
How did
idea.
you even begin to ask like Chris Anderson back then to do that? Like,
you could do it with Crouch. Crouch is so, Crouch really well. Eric's just very agreeable, and Dylan's like that. Dylan's just very agreeable.
I will give Sue credit. Like when he was here that 2009 year, every week on Mondays or Tuesdays, whatever the day was we had back then, he did that interview. He never did not.
No. And yeah, we're not dogging on Sue. Not everybody's personality.
He was a businessman though.
Yeah.
Like Sue was very business-like.
Yeah. We've dealt with all kinds of guys over the years, and I'm not saying it's bad. I wouldn't be like Crouch or Dylan. You know that. I'd be the worst probably. So it's not a character evaluation. Guys are just, there's different personalities, and Dylan just happens to have a very pleasant, warm, welcoming sort of personality, like Crouch did too.
That's why you don't like to go out with me on the road trips.
Oh God. Yeah. I mean, you're good about it. I'm,
Every time we go out to eat, then we go out and have a beer somewhere. They'll be like, "Where's Sipple?" I go, "Oh, he's back at the hotel."
Yeah, so much attention. But anyway, those guys, some guys are, and we mentioned a couple guys. There's others than Crouch too that were really good with the media, right? But Dylan, his team, yeah, it is, and he earns it because he works harder than anybody. That's another reason it's his team. And he happens to have a really talented right arm, so it makes sense for the receiver to go to the podium and lavish some praise on him because the ball might come your way a little bit more. So yeah, but it was Hunter. His comments were heartfelt for sure.